You've been exiled to an island for the rest of your life. Food, water, and shelter awaits you. But what about entertainment? What could you do on an island to pass the time away? Maybe that's a better question for Tom Hanks. But what if, before the lifelong commitment of being on an island, you were given the opportunity to take 10 movies with you? Just 10. What would they be and perhaps why? Today, we get trapped on an island with just a tad more than a blood soaked volleyball. Today, we get to talk about why the rewatchability of films is so important to the cinematic consumer. So pull out the hammock, kick back, and relax as we break down our top 10 movies to take on an island. This is a Comic Talkers production, and you are listening to Just for Flix. What's going on, guys? It's Patty B, your boy, your host. With me today is my co-host, Mr. B Dog, Mr. Brandon. And today we are going to break down our top 10 movies that we would take on an island with us if we were there. Well, we are on the island for the rest of our lives.
Well,
Got to take
shit.
10 got to take 10 movies with you. What are they going to be and why do we love them so much? And it's mainly going to be rewatchability, I think, that
That's
is a main factor in this, right?
well. The sad thing is that's even if I make it 10 days on the island, I'll do that. But yeah, these are pure rewatchability films. Not only that, I also went off stuff that didn't leave me on cliffhangers. So I don't want to be trapped on an island and never know what the heck the story's going to next. But it's a sad thing. It's like you said, these are some of our favorite films, and there were a lot that was off that list. But I'll go ahead, Pat, and start this off because I think this is a movie on my list that you have never watched once in your life. I think my top two, my number 10 and number 9, you have never watched in your life. Okay.
Let's see.
Putting it out there. Number 10 goes to a foreign film. Um, this movie focuses around, and this is a true story, based around the man who trained one of the most famous martial artists in all of Hollywood, Bruce Lee. The movie's called Ip Man. It stars Donnie Yen. If you guys don't know who Donnie Yen is, that is from John Wick. That is from Rogue One, a Star Wars story. He is Chewie.
Oh, yep.
He is in a lot of films, and I love him as a martial artist. He is one of my favorite martial artists of all time. Um, this movie is really fun to watch. It puts you in a situation back in World War II when Japan took over China. Still one of my favorite martial arts scenes of all time. Takes on 10 men, straight up ass, 10 men, and takes down every single one of them. And because of that, he wins 10 bags of rice, but he refuses that. It's a good movie. It's one of my favorite Donnie Yen films. Period. I love him, John Wick. I love him in Star Wars Rogue One. But this is by far a movie I would watch. I'm a big sucker for martial art films.
Yeah.
It Man is my number 10. So, Pat, what is your number 10?
My number 10 is a movie that kind of recently became on my list, a movie that I just kind of fell in love with. It's one of my favorite directors. It's Wes Anderson's first movie. It's Bottle Rocket.
Wow,
Um,
I'm shocked you put that low on your
yeah,
list.
I think there's other movies I got to put in consideration for nostalgic reasons, like growing up and what I loved. That's kind of what I'll take with me. Um, but no, it's a great movie. It's simple, as you know. I mean, you know the movie because I've recently brought it to your attention. But it's Owen Wilson and Luke Wilson's first movie together. Well, first movie in general. Uh, Owen Wilson going to school with Wes Anderson in college, and then they kind of formed a relationship from there. But like I said, about obviously a petty theft, an aspiring petty theft that wants to be as successful as he can. Right, he has a 75-year plan. Right, and then you got a mental patient. Well, kind of just coming out of a voluntary hospital in Anthony Adams. He has just needs a friend to get him out of trouble, I guess, or well, get him into trouble now. like one of the first 10 minutes, he's going to Anthony's going to his parents' house to steal their own stuff. Like what? Like what are we doing here? And then not only that, Dignan stole his earrings, right? Stole the earrings that his mom got him. But yeah, Bob Mapplethorpe is another good character in that movie. You guys should check it out. Robert Musgrave plays him. And then we got James Caan as Mr. Henry. It's one of your you're
One
not a
of
big fan of his role, right, in that movie?
I not in that movie. I
Yeah.
love James Caan as an actor. I think
Mhm.
he's a very accomplished actor. I just for that role and what you've told me who was supposed to play him,
Yep.
I wished it was them.
It was
I
Bill Murray.
Bill
Yeah.
Murray. Yeah.
Yep. And
But
considering Bill Murray being in most of Wes Anderson's movies, right?
yeah,
So
and the thing is too with that, and I'll speak it. It made my honorables for
mhm,
that reason alone.
yeah.
If it was Bill Murray, I think I would have put it up higher on my list. I would have put it
Gotcha.
maybe 9, 8 on my list.
He's not even in it that long either, right?
Yeah, but it's a sad thing. Is like just you just don't see his acting that way. Like you don't see him more in comedical roles. You more see
Mhm.
serious roles. But
But yeah, no, Bottle Rocket. It's a great movie. You guys should check it out. Like I said, it's Wes Anderson's first movie, but I'll bring it back to you for your number nine, man.
yeah, so my number 9 goes to the oldest movie I feel that's going to be on both our lists. It's just a very well thought out court drama,
Yeah.
and it's not really what you think it is. It was released in 1957.
Mhm.
I'm going with 12 Angry Men.
Okay.
This is, of course, it's a play, and I don't want to hear in the comments, oh, it's a play. This movie alone just was well stacked with actors. You got Henry Fonda as
Hmm.
juror number 8, the main protagonist of the film. What I love too is you don't have names in this movie. It is straight up juror number 8, juror number 9, the foreman, and then at the end is when you get a name reveal. And that's it. That's all that matters. It was the whole thing of everybody not knowing who they are. They all came from different backgrounds. And it was just a great film. One was a racist. One didn't want to be there. One was enlightened by it. One just looked at it as he was a criminal because of his relationship with his son. But you got Henry Fonda in there going, I just don't see that. We can't just blame a guy for when we don't really analyze the facts. I'm not going to
Hmm.
send a kid to death because we can't look at the facts. And it's not that, and that's where I think people mistake it. Like, oh, Henry Fonda was just all character was just, oh, he's innocent. He wasn't.
Hmm.
He looked at it as I want to analyze the evidence. I
Hmm.
don't want to just sentence a guy because everybody wants to go home or everybody just thinks he's guilty. We need to look at everything. And slowly and surely, everybody else started seeing his way.
Hmm.
Making it. One of my other favorite roles was Lee J. Cobb. He is juror number 3, the main antagonist of the film.
Yeah.
Um, he is just him and Henry Fonda just work so well together.
Hmm.
E.G. Marshall is one of my other favorite ones. He kind of was a borderline with juror number 3 as like the antagonist,
Hmm.
but he slowly and surely started seeing it. And the foreman, Martin Balsam, is in one of my other favorite movies of all time, Psycho. He is the cop that goes and investigates. And then, like, the funniest death scene ever when he's going down a flight of stairs. And also Piglet, the voice of Piglet's in this film.
That's pretty cool.
That is John Fiddler. And he is the first juror to go with Henry Fonda, or one of the first ones to go with him.
Hmm.
It's a great film. I recommend this to anybody who is wanting to learn more about court. If you like plays and stuff, this is a great play. I would not recommend the 90s movie they did for this. This is the movie I'd recommend. So I'll turn it back over to Pat for his number 9.
Yeah, with with my number nine, I'm gonna be going with Hook. It's a childhood favorite of mine. Obviously, one of my favorite Robin Williams movies. Robin Williams, I think we can both consider one of our favorite actors, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but as far as that, yeah, no. So with Hook, one of the things I like the most about it too is that it is, it's kind of an adaptation with Peter Pan.
Right.
And it's one of, I think, in my opinion, it's one of the coolest Peter Pan stories, I guess, because it's a little bit more, in my opinion, realistic to the point of where it's going as Peter in his adult form, right? Peter kind of does grow up, right? He gets out of Neverland, goes back, Now he's aged, he has a family, and then they go back to Grandma Wendy's. And by this point, Wendy, is elder age and gets his kids end up getting kidnapped by Captain Hook.
Mhm.
Which what's funny is Ron Williams playing Peter, right? Dustin Hoffman. I did not know for the longest time that Dustin Hoffman was Captain Hook.
Well, just like the whole thing too, they disguise him really well. Now,
They
I'm not,
do.
yeah, I'm not a big Dustin Hoffman fan either. But that movie is really fun to watch,
Hmm.
and he does play something that you don't usually see him play, and it works.
Yeah.
But what was it? But also the other cameo that we never see, Glenn Close.
Hmm.
And it's like the funniest thing because you would think like, oh, she's Smeagol the way she's looking, like from the cartoon movie. But also too, what about Julia Roberts? Julia
Hmm.
Roberts.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Not in the, again, this is kind of when she started acting. And
Yeah. This was probably right around Pretty Women, I would imagine, right?
yeah, I think it was
Pretty
like the
Woman. Yeah.
year or the same year it came out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Early 90s. I mean, this movie I think came out in 91, if I'm not
Mm,
mistaken.
yes.
Um, but no, it's a great story. Like I think it was perfectly done, just the way they intertwined everything with him coming back, and the Lost Boys don't really remember him, right? They know who Peter Pan was, but they're like, this ain't Peter. There's no way.
He's an adult. Nobody
He's
cares.
an adult, yeah. And it's just they see him growing up, and now you got Rufio. Don't forget about Rufio. But no, if you guys haven't checked this out, you should. Hook, it's a great movie, early '90s film.
Mhm.
Really kind of gets you in the feels too. You can definitely, it's everything that a '90s film is, but it's perfect. Like I said, Robin Williams being the lead in it, along with Dustin Hoffman. So I'll bring it back to you for your number nine, and yeah.
So shout out to my Star Wars fans out there, and guys haven't checked it out, go check out the Ghost Squad because my number 8 goes to a Star Wars film, and I hate to say it is the only Star Wars film that made my list. I wanted to go with a movie that didn't leave me on a cliffhanger. I wanted a complete story, and I couldn't choose the top 3 on my list, which would have been Empire, Rogue One, and Revenge, because at this point
Hmm.
they leave you all on the cliffhangers. I chose a movie that is a self-contained story. I'm going with episode 6, Return of the Jedi. Now, we start off in Jabba's palace, start off with the bounty hunters, everything like that. Yeah, you need to know a little bit about episode 5, but it's not terrible if you don't.
Hmm.
You go into probably one of the best battle sequences of all time. It's the first time I feel like you see not only a land battle, but you also
Yeah.
see space and a lightsaber duel. And it's kind of what set the standard from there on out with Star Wars movies. You get Phantom the Menace the same way. You get Attack of the Clones isn't really that much, but you do get some stuff. And then Revenge of the Sith, same way. That's
Hmm.
why I said I love Return of the Jedi. It's probably one of my favorite Luke scenes is with him and Vader, and
Yeah.
trying to get him to turn back to the good side, to the light force, but the but it's also one of my favorite space sequences in all Star Wars. I'd put this up there with Rogue One.
Hmm.
Rogue One has to me some of
Really.
the best space sequences of all time.
Yeah.
I put that up there. I would even put, like, if I had to go space sequences, Return of the Jedi, Rogue One, A New
Hmm.
Hope. I'd even put that over Revenge.
I'm a big fan of. I love how in the opening of this movie, like the whole Jabba Palace, it's like a good 30 to 40 minute chunk of the movie. I feel like it's a good like stretched out scene, and a lot happens. And like you said, it's kind of like the perfect thing to lead off of five. But like you said, it didn't have to say too much about it.
Right.
Kind of summed it. It kind of summed everything that you needed to know up.
And on top of it,
So,
the good guys won at the end. You don't worry
yeah.
about what
Yeah.
leads up to, or what's going to happen next, because the next movie doesn't take place till 30 years later. The
Hmm.
shows that take place, yeah, it's probably in that time frame, but it's not terrible. But yeah, I put Return of the Jedi. It's the only one I feel like, and two, it's the only one that actually has a canonized Captain Rex now. So
Yeah.
I'm excited because that is the old man with the beard that kicking out one of the scout troopers. That is now Captain Rex canonized. So I'm a big Captain Rex fan. So Yeah. So that is my number 8. Turn it back over to Pat for his number 8.
Yeah, my number 8 is I believe it's my only animated movie that made the list. And me being an animated guy, not a big animated guy, didn't grow up liking cartoons and whatnot. I know that's weird to say, but I'll
You
say it
were
first
not
thing.
raised right. No. How
No, it
dare
just never was my thing. I don't know. I always like more like live action stuff.
you. Mhm.
Um, but this one is one of my favorite Disney movies of all time. It's a Pixar movie. It's Ratatouille. Uh, Ratatouille. Patton Oswalt obviously is perfect in this movie. No one could have voiced, I think, that character better than him. Um, love the opening sequence of the movie when it's got the whole commercial of Gusteau and everyone loves to cook and all that, and then it kind of pans out to a rainy house where Remy is kind of causing trouble and whatnot,
Mhm.
and the whole getting launched out of the window with the book. I guess you're I guess you're wondering, but no, it's just a great story, with the whole Linguini character as well. At first when I watched this movie, I wasn't ever the biggest fan of the Linguini character for some reason. I just was thought he was kind of like he was definitely a puzzle in the story itself. But no, I think it's perfect how, this they kind of need each other, right? It's kind of like a bonding between them both, a rat and a human, but he tries not to see him as a rat too much, right? Tries to see him as like a friend, and I think that's kind of a cool thing. Got Colette as the female character in it, who was great. And then Anton Ego, the food critic. I mean, you think he's a villain, but really, I think that's more of the feel good story about it, right? The ending is kind of perfect to it.
But I don't see him as the villain. I see him
He's
more like
not, no,
like an anti-hero. Like he's he's bad, but he's not bad. Like
yeah,
he's doing his job. And when you
hmm
that's still one of my favorite sequences in that film is when he tries the ratatouille for the first time and
yep,
see that scene of just innocence. And it's so great because then you see him afterwards, he's eating and eating and eating, and he loves it. And then you see him when he finds out, he gets up and leaves. He doesn't say a word. And
hmm
it closes down, but then he helps them open up a new restaurant at the end of the movie.
yep.
The main villain I look at is the main head chef.
The
That's
head shit, yep,
the main villain.
terrible.
And Linguini, I love Brad Garrett. Brad Garrett who voices Linguini. Or not Linguini, Gusto. My
Cousteau, yes, yes,
voice is Gusto. And
but
he's fantastic. And Pat
Will
Mar-
Arnett,
great role for him.
yeah.
Favorites of his. Um, but yeah,
Sweet
it,
man. No, I'll turn it back to you for your number 8, man.
so I'm gonna give hints to Pat to see if he can guess it. It is a movie with Christian Bale. It is a movie with Michael Caine. It is the second of the franchise, and their main villain won an Oscar for Best Supporting Actor. You should know this by the top of your head right then and there, because that actor this was his last performance. It is The Dark Knight.
Yep.
I enjoy The Dark Knight. I went back and forth on this and Batman Begins, but I felt like The Dark Knight, I wouldn't be left on a cliffhanger.
Mhm.
If that's how that franchise ended, I'd be satisfied
Really?
because you don't. He realizes he is the villain now. He is now what the Gotham is going to look at as the villain. He did not want Harvey Dent to die. Harvey Dent was the hero of Gotham. That
Yeah.
is the hero that Gotham really truly needed.
But he really wasn't a hero, though, right?
Well, you got to remember, he was misguided too. Got to remember that. He's vengeful. Remember, he was pushed to that point because of an incident that Rachel dies. He survives. Aaron Eckhart in this movie is very underrated. I love Heath Ledger's Joker, still do to this day is one of my favorite Jokers of all time. He is probably my favorite Joker of all time, and Mark Hamill's close second. But Two-Face is by far my favorite villain in comics because of that reason. I think it's more misguided. I love that the animated series brought in the whole multiple personality
Hmm.
disorder that he's had this or another personality say in the back called Big Bad Heart. And I wish they would have brought that more to this role, but for what we got, I was content. And seeing that he is now pushed to be this villain and how Batman and Jim have to deal with this is amazing. And that's where he says he's not going to be put as the bad guy. I don't want him to be viewed this way. Because that does set up a premise in the third movie where Gordon almost reveals that Dent went bad,
Hmm.
but he doesn't. And it was Bane who found the letter and revealed it.
Yeah.
And then you find out Gordon hid that all these years because there was a matter of 8 to 10 years in between this and the last movie. And
Hmm.
Bruce Wayne has been in hiding, pretty much, or Batman has been in hiding. He hasn't shown back up. So I enjoy this film more. I love the bank heist in the beginning of the movie. It's
Oh,
probably
that's the best opening scene, dude. It's
the best
great.
scenes of all time.
You know
Uh,
who you're stealing from, right?
yeah, and then I love the whole scene too with them in the conference room.
Yeah.
He's gonna make this pencil disappear. Without Heath Ledger's performance, I don't think this movie would have done well. And it's sad because if he didn't pass, and rest in peace, Heath Ledger, we would have had more Joker in the third movie.
Hmm.
They did not kill him off for a reason.
Man, could you imagine him just being in a second movie?
Yeah, I would have loved it. Well, you got to remember, another actor I love, Cillian Murphy's in these films. He's in
Hmm.
all three of them. He plays a small scene in the beginning of the movie, and then he plays a small scene in The Dark Knight Rises. But Joker and or Heath Ledger's and Christian Bale's performance, even the interrogation room, was so well done.
Yeah.
This is by far probably my favorite Christopher Nolan film of all time, up to
Hmm.
Prestige and a couple others. But by God, The Dark Knight is a movie that I feel that I'd be satisfied. I feel like if they ended it, and that's where I said, if they would have ended it at that point where Batman's now on the run, I'd be content with that.
Hmm.
Because the whole purpose was to make him humanistic. And to me, that's how Batman ends.
Yeah.
But again, we get some stuff. I still love the scene up on the rooftop with all three of them, him, Dent, and Gordon, because I is a
Yeah.
scene comics from the Long Halloween.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that you see as comic book fans what you love, and I love the motto of all things.
Hmm.
You can die a hero or live long enough to
To see
see,
yourself the villain. Yeah.
and that's hard to think. He saw his.
Aaron Eckhart's great,
He
right?
is. He's
He's great.
this is his, by far. If I had to make a list of all his performances, this would be number one on my
Yeah.
list. I think this was perfect for him.
Yeah. No, it's funny because when this movie came out, like I didn't really know who he was much. Like I
Yeah,
just wasn't
he didn't have
I
a
really
lot of
knew him.
filmography before this movie. It's just like
Yeah.
Cillian Murphy. Cillian Murphy didn't have a lot of big filmography too before he
Yeah.
in Batman Begins. And look at his career now. He's
Yeah.
in the race of an Oscar.
He
So,
might have been in a couple British movies. I'm not 100% sure,
but like
or
he
he's like an Irishman. Yeah.
But since then, he's always had a good relationship with Nolan, and he's appeared in a lot of Nolan films, including that whole franchise, Dunkirk,
And then yeah,
and now.
Oppenheimer. He's not in Interstellar though, right?
Oh, is he?
No, he's not.
I thought he was. Never mind.
Matt Damon's another Christopher Nolan guy.
Yeah, I'm not a big Matt Damon guy,
Oh,
and
whatever.
well, it's not that. It's just I'm not a big Ben Affleck guy. And it's sad because I love Dogma and I love both of them in that movie, but I just don't like Ben Affleck now. I think his fame got to his head, and same thing. Matt Damon, out of the two of them, I could stand more.
You're gonna tell me Gone Girl wasn't a great movie?
I love. I don't. I'm not. I didn't like his.
You don't like Rosamund Pike?
No,
Wow.
I,
Wow.
I like Dogma with them. But Ben Affleck is just an actor I either love or hate,
Yeah.
and I've never really sat there and watched a movie of his and just went, "Hey, that was actually a good movie." Other than Dogma or anything he's in with Kevin Smith, Jersey Girl was good. I didn't mind that role for him.
Hmm.
I didn't like his Batman. Period. And that's why I said Matt Damon's good. I think his career is better than Affleck's. And it's sad because I think Affleck's got more Oscars underneath him, but
Does
Damon,
he?
well,
I feel
remember, he
like
won Best Director
doesn't
too.
well doesn't I would think Casey Affleck has more
No,
Oscars.
I believe Matt has, or Ben has two. I believe he got Best Director too at one point, and
Oh,
he
he's
got
a director. Did he direct that Michael Jordan movie?
yeah, he did. He did Air. Him and Matt Damon did, and then I think he won it for it was a Argo.
Hmm.
I think he won for that too. I'm not sure if he won for director or for actor, but he
Yeah.
won. So he's got a little bit more underneath his belt, I think, than Casey
Mhm.
does. But I think out of the two, Matt, I feel is the better actor.
I gotcha.
I like him in. You got him in Saving Private Ryan. You have him in. Martian is another good movie of his. I enjoyed that one.
Martian's good.
Yeah.
Martian's really good. Like I said, I like his role in Interstellar. I think it's perfect because he's not in it very long, but yeah. Anyway, not to get
Another
into
one
that movie.
Yeah, and that another one I like too, really quickly, is the We Bought a Zoo one, the movie with him and Scarlett Johansson. I actually didn't mind him in that movie.
Oh, okay.
I like him as a family guy. When he's a family guy, I feel like he acts better
I gotcha.
than other movies. Like I don't like him in The Great Wall. I thought that was terrible for him. There's just a lot of movies with him. Like Good Will Hunting is another good Matt Damon film, but that's also Ben Affleck too. And it's sad because none of those two won an Oscar, but the actor who supported him did, and that was Robin Williams. So no, I'll turn it back over to you, Pat, for your number 7.
My number seven is a kind of a just a cheesy '90s mid '90s comedy. One of my favorite movies of all time. One of my favorite sports movies. It is Kingpin.
Yeah, I figured that was going to make your list somehow, some way.
Yeah, well, when you're on a gravy train with biscuit wheels, that tends to happen, right? Um, this is it's a great movie. I think it's one of Bill Murray's most underrated roles in a movie, as well as Woody Harrelson's. I
That's what I
love
say. This is probably
Woody
my
Harrelson as Roy Munson in this, dude. I feel like this movie has become a cult classic over time. Like I see it online, I see it on social media, just always getting recognition, and and rightfully so. Like this movie, 100% rewatchability. I love the little twist of throwing Randy Quaid in it.
yeah.
You know, Randy Quaid was already in Christmas Vacation, which is an iconic Christmas movie in my opinion. I
Was
love it.
this movie before Independence Day or was it after?
What before Independence Day?
Yeah, because he was in Independence Day too, and I felt that that was one of his better roles too, Randy Quaid.
Randy Quaid. Oh, I didn't realize.
Yeah, he's the one that goes, "Hey boys, I'm back," and
This might have been the same year because this came out in '96.
I believe
Kingpin
Independence Day came out in '95.
Okay. But no, it's Bill Murray, Bigger and McCracken. There's that iconic scene, at the end where they're doing the bowling showdown. I guess quick little like a explanation of what the movie's about. It's a former world champion bowler, right? Roy Munson. He's a young bowler, kind of gets into gambling on the side for money, to kind of get by through competitions and whatnot with Bill Murray, who is Bigger and McCracken is his name in the movie, and he kind of gets him into trouble. They go to a bar one night, kind of gamble with the wrong people, so to say, and kind of tails off on him. He leaves them in the dust for these people to do whatever they want to Roy, and cutting his hand off. So there's this constant joke within the movie of there's handless jokes. You're she said handsome, not handless. It's a perfect little gimmick. The rubber man at the end. He's ends up getting sponsored by Trojan condoms. Um,
You imagine if Wes Anderson directed that film?
Dude, you know what? That's I never thought of that, and you're saying that now, and that is a fantastic.
That would
Uh,
be a great one because you got to remember he loves working with colors. So you
uh,
imagine the bowling balls and how he shoots that.
Dude, the final showdown of Bigger and like, oh my god, dude,
That would be
dude,
amazing.
dude, don't make. Oh man,
Wes Anderson, hear us out. Make us a Kingpin remake and put Woody
I
Harrelson
think,
in
but I
it.
also think like don't change anything about
No,
the script, right? I like kind of the Amish aspect of it too. That's kind of cool. It has like some different scenes at the Amish farm and whatnot because Ishmael, played by Randy Quaid, Um, he gets kind of recruited from an older Roy Munson,
Yeah.
and kind of go from there. And they start going on the road, getting money, and one thing leads to another. There's a tournament in Reno, and that's where he ends up meeting Bigger, and all in the process is where they come across Claudia,
Mhm.
as who is the girl. Um, but it's a great movie, man. I think everyone should check it out. It's a Farley Brothers or a Fairley Brothers movie who
Yeah.
do Dumb and Dumber. They do Something About Mary, Kingpin, obviously. They do some good ones. But yeah, that's my pick.
So I'm gonna do something different than what we usually do when we do top tens on other channels and stuff. I'd like to see if it's okay to do six, five, and four all at the same time because it
Six.
is a franchise that I,
Okay.
and it's probably one of the biggest franchises of all time. You should not be surprised at this on my list. I'm going with the Fellowship of the Ring, the Two Towers, Return of the King. I'm going with the Lord of the Rings franchise.
Well, do you know what order you're going in?
Well,
After,
that's what I said. I had 6, 5, and 4, Return of the King, Two Towers, Fellowship. I liked all three, so it's kind of hard for me to say one over the other. Uh,
yeah.
I should have put Fellowship at that and kept it secret, but I enjoy these films. I've already told Pat, a while back, I actually got to meet all four hobbits. And I got to meet Elijah Wood, um, Billy Boyd, Sean Ashton, and Dominic. And it was so much fun. It truly was. Man, I couldn't even explain the experience meeting him and especially Sean Astin. Sean Astin is one of my favorite actors of all time.
That's yeah. The Goonies is one of my
It-
favorite movies.
Rudy, he's got a lot of iconic performances underneath him.
Yeah.
And I loved him, and he is one of my favorite characters through this whole franchise, Samwise.
Mhm.
Samwise is by far who I relate to the most. I can be cowardly, not want to do things or go out of my norm, but he is the hero of the story. Because if it wasn't for him, Frodo would have gone up to the mountain. Frodo's to me the main villain. No, I'm just messing. Anyway, but these movies take you on a great adventure of the one ring that rules them all, and they're positioned to try to destroy it before it's too late. And seeing how Peter Jackson took these stories from J.R.R. Tolkien and put them into a cinematic masterpiece,
Mhm.
it still sets the standard to me from here on out. Not only that, we'll talk about some of the actors in this. Viggo Mortensen's Aragorn. Aragorn. You have Ian McKellen as Gandalf. You have Christopher Lee as Saruman. You have Orlando Bloom. This is one of his first big movies with Legolas. You imagine that guy making money the way he did in 2001 to 2003? Because he had some.
Killing it.
He had Black Hawk Down during that same time frame. Even though he
Oh,
played a small role, he was in the film. But he also had Pirates. And
Pirate.
Pirates, I believe Return of the King and Pirates came out the same year.
Hmm.
It's And then you also have Liv Tyler. You also have Kate Blanchett. Um, the list can go on and on. Um, John Rhys Davies plays one of my favorite characters too, Gimli or Treebeard. I love him in these roles, and it's just fun to watch this adventure of perseverance, friendship. The whole journey of it itself. You got the most iconic lines, "You shall not pass," or "Potatoes," or you got all those things. Andy Serkis, I want to talk about him. Andy Serkis is amazing in this film.
He is.
He is Golem, and Golem is just so well done. Um, the way they present it, Shelob, even though the most terrifying thing you will ever see in that movie, to me, the big spider, the big ass spider at the end, looks well done. It actually looks like a movie that you can see. Two, the backgrounds were real. It
Hmm.
was and even the orcs were real people. They weren't CGI'd like it was in the Hobbits. I know we've talked about that in the past too. But these movies are just really great. The music's fantastic. I could sit there and listen to the music all day. If I had to choose music, I this would be like number 1 or 2 on my list. Howard Shore is just amazing in these films. He won out of all 3 years, he won 2 of the 3 best scores. And
Mm.
he won for Fellowship and he won for Return. Two Towers did not. He was nominated, but he did not. I forgot who. I think it was the. I can't remember anyway. But these movies are just great. They're long, so I wouldn't have to worry about it on an island. Oh, how many hours went by? Oh, we'll just put on Lord of the Rings and then sit there and watch. And I would go extended edition. I would not go theatrical.
Yeah.
Go extended. So that gives me a whole 12-hour day to watch probably more than 12 hours. But it gives me 12 hours to watch something I enjoy. What's your take on Lord of the Rings? That's why I wanted to get those out of the way.
I
So
got you. Yeah, no, I love Lord of the Rings. It came out, what, 2001 was the first one that came out?
2001 was the very first one. Yes.
Yeah. What's crazy is that and Harry Potter came out. The first Harry Potter came out the same year.
Yeah.
It's
And that
it's
movie
it's
is good.
crazy, like, as far as the magnitude of movies that were coming out around that time. Like, yeah, I am a fan of the third one. I think that was my favorite movie if I had to compare something. Um,
The
I It's a good story. The orcs are really different than compared to the hobbits, which I know is a big issue to a lot of people. The Hobbit, as you know, is one of my favorite movies, or it's the franchise itself, the Hobbit story. I love the Hobbit story. So, but Lord of the Rings, I think if I had to pick a favorite character, I think it would be Legolas.
I think it I that's why I said there's so many great characters. Boromir is another great character in this story. Even though he's the one that's tempted with the ring the most,
Yeah,
he is a very well played character by Sean Bean. He is amazing in that film.
yeah.
Sean Bean, every time it's like we made the joke, every time we see Sean Bean, his character is going to die one way or another. So he's just known for his deaths. You
Well,
get him,
he doesn't die in National Treasure.
okay, he doesn't die there, but he gets arrested, right? You pretty much you got him in 007, he dies. You get him in Game of Thrones, he dies.
They
You
could have
know,
killed him from National Treasure, though, if you think about it.
he could have, but
They
they
could
didn't.
have. He could have fell down that hole
Oh
that
well.
they.
I think that was part of his contract. He didn't want to die in this.
Yeah, he's like, I'm sick of this. I'm sick of this shit.
But yeah, that's why I said this was a franchise that I knew right away, and I know it made Star Wars fans mad because I love Star Wars too.
Mhm.
But to go off pure rewatchability, there are movies in the Star Wars franchise I cannot do that with, and hence I could do this with Lord of the Rings all day. So yeah, Lord Fellowship of the Ring, Two Towers, Return of the King. If you've not watched this, fans, what's wrong with you? No, I'm just messing. Go check it out. Buy the extended edition. Sit there with your family for 4.5 hours for each movie, and enjoy. That's probably not a selling point, but
Yeah, it sounds like you're really, really selling it right there.
yeah, no. But let's go to Pat. You're gonna do your 6, 5, and 4 spot.
Yeah, so I'll start with my six. My six is an iconic 80s movie. One of my favorite movies. I think this is it is so rewatchable in my opinion, especially it's part of a trilogy. It's Back to the Future. I think this is one of Steven Spielberg's best movies, in my opinion. Uh, Michael J. Fox, Christopher Lloyd, obviously Marty McFly and Dr. J. Emmett Brown. I You could put them as as one of the biggest duos in cinematic history, I would imagine, right? The story that how he built this time machine to go back, back in time. I think it's just a great like imagination story, right? Of like all the possibilities that 1.21 gigawatts, you know. Um, you know, he's like, who's coming? He's like, what do you think the limit is? Like stealing plutonium from, uh it's great. I've heard this myth of this movie where, or not a myth, but people think that the only way that these two characters could meet in real life is if they worked retail together.
I can see it.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm like now that I saw the whole breakdown through, I'm like, holy, it actually works pretty good. Um, I mean, yeah, it Biff Tannen, I wanna say too, is another good antagonist in a movie.
Make like a tree and get out.
Make like a tree and get out of here.
Get out of here.
I love the second one too, how they have
Yeah.
the older Biff, and then like the older Biff goes back in time to, you know, that's I would say the second one would be on my honorable mentions as well, you know.
The
But
yeah, the third one's where it gets terrible.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
the third one should have
If
just
if you think about, about pop culture and whatnot, this movie really stands out to it. I think you could watch it today. It ages well. It's a great family movie to watch, I think, in my opinion.
agree.
Um, but yeah, Back to the Future is my number six. Uh, my number five is an iconic movie. It involves one of your favorite actors, I believe, if not your favorite actor, might be. I don't remember, but it's a Tom Hanks movie. Talking about rewatchability here. So I think it's one of those movies where if you're scrolling down TV and you're going and going, you're seeing all the channels, and you see this movie pop out, you're gonna be like, huh, I think I'm gonna watch that.
Can I
It's
take a
Forrest
shot?
Gump.
Which one is
It's
this? Yeah,
Forrest Gump.
yeah. I figured. This may
Forrest
be
Gump.
one of these. This was
Yeah,
a hard one for me because I can recite lines from that
yeah,
movie like nothing.
yeah.
And that's just because I've watched it over and over and over and over again. But it's just one of those movies like, okay, would I get annoyed with it?
hmm
And just
You
kind
know,
of
I don't think so. It's just got pretty. I mean, I think at this point, like you said, I can recite everything, right? I think one of our favorite lines is, "I drank about 15 Dr. Peppers. I gotta pay."
I gotta
I believe he said he had to go pee.
well, even then too, one of my favorite, what was it? I blame my now that's what I said. This movie is really great and it's well done. The one of my favorite scenes too is the whole Watergate scandal. He's like, there's
Yeah.
people keeping me up all across the street, and then you also have one of my favorite scenes of all time is still him and Lieutenant Dan on the shrimp boat. That
hmm
makes me laugh every time because they're like, "Oh, you probably got to pray," so they all go to church, and
Yeah.
Lieutenant Dan sitting there drinking away at church. It There are just so many iconic scenes in this movie that just makes you laugh,
hmm
and or when he gets shot in the butt, and he goes to President Johnson
Yeah.
for Medal of
Yeah.
Honor.
Yep.
I'd like to see that. Okay, he sits
Like
down.
he's like Jesus Christ.
Yes. Jesus Christ.
No, but Forrest Gump, like everyone should at least watch this movie at least once in their life. If they haven't, shame on you. You know.
That's like a box of chocolates. You never
Yeah,
know.
you never know what you're gonna get. So, with that, we're gonna go right to my number four. My number four is a movie that I have introduced to you recently. It
Mhm.
is a movie I think that uh, really ages well. Like it's just like it's a good. If you like a good, quick movie, I think this is the movie to go to.
Is this the movie that makes you hungry?
Yeah,
It is. I know exactly what you're talking about here. It's Fargo.
it is Fargo. It is from the Coen brothers. One of my favorite movies of all time, I think. William H. Macy, one of my favorite actors of all time.
This is probably one of those movies for me when it comes to William H. Macy that I cannot take him seriously because the whole movie's like, yeah, yeah, no, 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 you can't intervene. You can't
Yeah.
intervene.
Ma'am, I'm cooperating here.
You're cooperating.
Yeah.
You could tell. It's like if I was a cop, I've been like that.
Ma'am, I asked your question.
I'll be honest. I'm pardon my French. If I saw that and I was a cop, I've been like, yeah, that's the motherfucking killer.
Yeah, like, dude, you're being so suspicious right now. Like, why? You know? And when you have a super serious detective like Marge Gunderson, played by Frances McDormand, and she won an Oscar for this movie,
Yeah,
right? And she's not in this movie for a long time. Like I said, this movie's runtime, I believe, is like an hour and 35 minutes, hour and 36 minutes, maybe. And it just she doesn't really get involved in this movie till about 30 minutes in, 30 to 35 minutes in.
and I think that's where me and you've discussed that too. Like, this is where I feel like maybe she should have won an Oscar because I don't feel like the first part of the movie we get with her is great.
Mhm.
It's that last ending scene when she arrests Willie or gets, like going out and actually going to arrest people and stuff like that. That's where you see her best moments from this film. I feel like. Like when you go see her, like, oh yeah, she's out there taking a look at all the car crash and the shots in the beginning. It's like, okay.
Yeah, he's like, you okay there, Marge? He's like, yeah, I'm just gonna barf.
Right. No,
Um,
I'm good. You know.
yeah, right.
But
And I can't, you can't go without saying too. I think this is one of Steve Buscemi's best roles he's
this is
been
a
in.
I will admit right now, I feel like he was Oscar shamed. I feel like he should have won an Oscar for this.
He totally could have. Yeah,
For best
uh,
supporting. I would not put him as best actor, best supporting. I would give him a best supporting actor role for this. And it just shocks me he wasn't even nominated for this. It's
mhm,
like his role is so he's this is where you look at Steve Buscemi and go, you play such a great slime ball.
yeah,
It's real. It's like him as Randall in Monsters Inc. Kind of the same.
uh-huh,
Look at him and go, yeah, I could see Steve Buscemi doing this. And that
yeah,
places. He
hmm
always plays that sleazy, mysterious kind of guy that you don't know what truly is happening. But he's that smooth talker too. Because he's
yeah.
in Reservoir Dogs too, and that's one of my other
He's
favorite.
great in Reservoir Dogs. Yeah.
I think he's a very underrated actor, and I feel like he deserves more. Um, but I'm shocked you haven't brought up Gear. I thought that's one of your favorite characters.
Oh, Garrett Grimson. Yeah, yeah, played by Peter Stormare, who is he's in a lot. He's kind of a Coen Brothers guy. He's been in a
Yeah,
couple of their movies. You could say that for Frances McDormand too, right? She's married to one of them.
yeah,
But no, Garrett Grimson, I think, is one of the best hitmen in movie history.
yeah.
Like just based on like his viciousness, the way he is, he's kind of a mute, right? He's just like this the whole time. We go to Pancake's house. He's like, we had pancakes for breakfast. And he's like, maybe a place with like a steak and a shot and a beer or something like that.
I just love too how he tries to run off at the end of the film
Yeah, right.
with Margie looking at him like with
Yeah,
I'm like, what are you doing? Like you're not that fast of a runner. And she just shoots him. It's
yeah.
the funniest thing ever.
I like when at the one of my favorite scenes in the movie is the first scene of the movie where Jerry's coming in with the brand new Tan Sierra,
Yeah,
going to this little bar in Fargo, North Dakota, and he's meeting up with these two guys, right? He's kind of getting involved with them, and this is the plan where they're going to kidnap Jerry's wife.
yeah.
And
There's
funny when he's explaining the plan. Well, first off, he's an hour late, right? Shep told us. Oh, Shep told me 8:30. You know, it's just got great little lines like that. But like I said, one of my favorite things about it, and we'll kind of move on. And I'll pardon my French, but he's like, it doesn't make sense. This plan. He's like, you're paying Peter to pay Paul. He's like, why didn't you have your wife? He's like, oh, your fucking wife to do it. like the way he's like finally saying something. Like I said, Peter Stormare in this movie is great. I don't think it gets enough recognition as well as Steve Buscemi. But we'll, with that, like I said, check out Fargo, one of my favorite Coen Brothers movies, and I think it's loved by many.
I'll go to my number three. This is one of my favorite war films of all time. Came out in 2016. Um, Directed by a very iconic actor too, Mel Gibson. I'm going with Hacksaw Ridge. This is by far one of my favorite war films of all time. It is a true story, based around a American soldier by the name of Desmond Doss, who is the first conscientious objector to ever win the Medal of Honor. Um, and he was a combat medic. And why he's so famous, and what I mean by conscientious objector, is that they refused to carry arms. There was a lot of conscientious objectors in America during that time that refused to go to war. And
Mm-hmm.
most of them were pardoned. They were like, okay, that's fine. He wanted to do his part, but he did not want to carry a rifle. And it was unheard of. And especially, but you look at, this movie, well shot. There's a lot of great scenes in this film. It is a faith-based film too. And I feel like on an island, I need that at points because I'm going to be like, God, please help me just one more day, one more day. and,
One
but,
day.
but it's one of those films I could sit there and rewatch and then still enjoy it. And, you have a great cast. You have Andrew Garfield's in this, Vince Vaughn is in this movie.
Yep.
Uh, You have Hugo Weaving is in this movie, but it's pretty much, Desmond Doss becomes a combat medic, and during a campaign on probably one of the bloodiest battles of World War II, which is the Battle of Okinawa, um, saves over, I believe it was 74 men in enemy territory without a weapon. And it is a great film. Teresa Palmer also plays Dorothy. Luke Bracci plays Smitty, which is one of the other main soldiers that hates him at first, but loves him, comes to respect him later on. I did like that because a lot of soldiers did not have a lot of respect for him. And it was until combat that his faith is what shined and allowed others to see. And it's a great film. I think it's well done. I think this is by far one of Mel Gibson's best directed films. Just well shot,
It
everything. I
is.
love the whole cliff scene when you see it. It's just the way it's shot. It's just beautiful,
Mhm.
and the war scenes are just amazing in this film. So yeah, Hacksaw Ridge made my number 3. So I'll turn it back over to Pat.
I like one more little thing. I like how Vince Vaughn's in that.
It's a role that you don't see him play
Oh,
often.
I like when I originally watched the movie, I was like, "Is that Vince Vaughn?"
Like I think he tried to do his best, Lee Emery,
Okay.
sorry Emery, on this, and it's like you have the comedical experience to do something like that, but remember they're a little different than what they are now,
Yeah.
drill sergeants or drill instructors. Um, but I enjoyed him in that role. I think it was well done for him. It was an odd role for him, and
Yeah.
for a while you didn't hear nothing from Vince Vaughn. He was very kind of like back shadowed. Like you see him as a shadow in the background.
Yeah.
But now this movie kind of launched his career again. But yeah. So okay, Pat, what's number 3?
My number three is it's one of my favorite. Oh, I shouldn't say that. Obviously, it's one of my favorite movies. But my number three is Jackie Brown.
Wow, that dropped. I thought it would be higher on your list.
I mean, there was a couple that were being tossed around, and that's just kind of where it left, where it floated. Um, Jackie Brown is, I think, one of my favorite Quentin Tarantino movies. Besides,
Pulp, Pulp Fiction's got to be up there on his list.
it is. Um, just the story behind it, I think, with Jackie's character being played by Pam Grier, she's kind of great for that role, right? She's this she's quiet, but she's also very observant, and she tries to save her ass most of the times. It's kind of what you take from the movie, but she's also kind of gets in this somewhat of a, not, I wouldn't say relationship, but kind of like this sting with Max Cherry, who is played by Robert Forster, which I think this is one of Robert Forster's best movies. And he did get nominated for an Oscar for this role.
I'd say that I did not know. So,
Yeah, Robert for best supporting that year.
but I don't think he won that one, right?
No, he didn't. He didn't. But he did get nominated. He got nominated for best supporting for Max Cherry, which I think he is a perfect role in this. I love their story. That's what kind of it blends it's the perfect combination of love and crime in this movie. I think this is Samuel Jackson's best movie ever, in my opinion. If you want to like look at this
Seriously? Even over Pulp Fiction? Like to me,
guy.
Pulp Fiction is his number
Well,
one.
I'll get into it later on. I'll
Yeah.
get into it later on. But this movie, him in this movie, just has so much more dialogue, so much more charisma. Just the way he does everything, the way he talks to everybody. It's Ordell Roby. That's who he is. He's the scumbag gun dealer, like doesn't care about anyone but himself. As long he's gonna protect himself at the end of the day, right? But the way he's so smooth, like a cat, like I love the beret he wears backwards, the kangaroo beret, with his thin
I forgot.
ponytail. Dude, I just think this is one of his best roles. Like I get it, Pulp Fiction, obviously, yes, a great role of his. But in my opinion, I don't love Pulp Fiction because of him, if that makes sense.
It's like you
I
like
love
more of
Jackie Brown because of him.
well, that's like you like more the duo that they have compared to him.
Love, I love, um, I love John Travolta's character
Yeah.
way more than I love Samuel Jackson's. But I think because he's in it way more.
Well, see, I think I just like that movie more because of the duo. And I
Hmm.
think that would be more like my more iconic duos in that
Yeah,
drama
yeah.
is Danielle Jackson, John Travolta, that film. I think it's,
Hmm.
but I see your point there. And that's why I said I'm glad it made your list, but I'm shocked it's not your number because I thought,
No, it's not my number one. It's up there. Like I said, it made the top three, and I think that's pretty good for considering what it is.
right.
But yeah, and then Bridget Fonda, one more thing too. Bridget Fonda, I love her character in this. She's kind of that blonde surfer gal, as Ordell likes to refer to her as.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, and then this is kind of an odd role, I would say, for Robert De Niro. Wouldn't you think? Just
Yeah, I tend to forget he's in this film sometimes, but again, I'm not the biggest Robert De Niro fan. And it's sad because I do like I like movies of his, but when you really like when I look at his performance, it's not always my favorite.
Mhm.
But like Raging Bull is always going to be my favorite of his. I think it's great. But like when you look at Goodfellas, I don't look at Goodfellas as Robert De Niro. I look at that as Joe Pesci and Ray Liotta.
Yeah, that they kind of stole that movie, right?
Yeah.
And I
Like
think,
Robert De Niro, I just felt like he was an important character,
oh,
but
100%.
he was just kind of one of those like I could forget about. Like Deer Hunter, I'd put over Goodfellas because I feel like Deer
Deer
Hunter.
Hunter, his role in Deer Hunter is good.
Yeah, that's why.
But but yeah, I'll move on. Yeah,
Oh,
Jackie Brown, my number, or go ahead, sorry.
no. That's it. That's all I was gonna say. I can go into my number two.
Yeah, number two.
I'm number two. It's awesome, but no, I'm just messing. It's not Austin Powers. Um,
Speaking of number two,
number two. No, I'm gonna give you a hint. You should know this right off the top of your head because you know this is a Tom Hanks film, but it also has Paul Newman,
mhm.
Daniel Craig, Jude Law.
Oh, I already know. I
What
already
movie
know.
is it? What
And
movie is
you
it?
actually just recently showed me this movie.
Yes, I did.
I
Just
don't,
like
and I
we talked
really,
about.
really enjoyed it. And I think only watching it that one time, like especially all the lead up to it and everything you explained, and it really does. And I know you'll get into it. It does have that comic book feel to it.
It does. It is a comic book movie. It is Road to
It-
Perdition. It is a great film. This is by far one of my favorite Tom Hanks films, and one of my it's like a very underrated role for him. Like people think when you think Tom Hanks, you think of Jim Duggan, or you think of him in League of Their Own. You think of him in Saving Private Ryan.
Big.
Philadelphia is another one. Forrest Gump. This kind of is an underrated role for him, and I enjoy it. I kind of like him. Part of me to say that I kind of like him as the. If anybody does not know, this is based off a comic by Max Allan Collins, and pretty much tells a story of Mike Sullivan, who is a gangster or a hitman for a gang,
Mhm.
for the Roonies or the Loonies. Um, and one night his son goes on an event or goes on one of his hits, and he does not know he's in the car. Well, he witnesses the hit. And when he runs, he sees him and tells him, "You cannot say anything." The sad thing is who's with him, and that is
Mhm.
the main boss's son. So, but the whole jealousy thing, I think that worked better for me in the movie than it did in the comic. Is their relationship or the son and Sullivan, because it's a thing of jealousy. It's a saying of, you know, Mr. Rooney always looks at Sullivan as his true son and doesn't look at Connor the same way. And one night, Connor goes and shoots his wife and his youngest son. Um, the oldest son does escape that fate, and pretty much Sullivan and Mike Sullivan Jr. go on the road to pretty much take down this mob. I love the shots. It is by far one of my favorite Sam Mendes films. Period. Like American Beauty's up there, 1917's up there, but this is by far to me the most well shot I have seen. My favorite scene still to this day is when Rooney's going out to his car after him and Sullivan just had a conversation after he's on the run, pretty much from the mob. And all of a sudden, you see when he goes to the car and he goes to knock on the door to the driver to open the door, he falls and you know he's killed. So you know what's about to happen. And that scene is so well shot with the rain and the
Yeah.
gunshot fires
And
with
it's
the
silent. The
yeah.
gunshots are silent, right?
The music in that movie was done by Thomas Newman. And by God, it is amazing how he does this. That movie, I love movies with great scores. And this is to me one of my favorite scores is this movie. To see that whole that's all you hear is the song and how powerful it is. And the only words you hear in that scene is I'm glad it was you. And you just hear Tom Hanks just rip gunfire at him. And then the funniest kill is still to me to this day is when he finally gets Connor when the Stanley Tucci's role
Hmm.
finally allows him to go take out Connor because now Sullivan's messing with not just his but Capone's or Al Capone's assets. So
Hmm.
the only way they're going to get rid of him is to allow him to do what he wants. So they allowed him. That was still my favorite death scene is when you go in there and he looks at him in the bathtub with disgust and then just shoots him. And then the way it was shot is the door was closing and then you see the mirror and you see the killer. It's a great movie too because I love Tom or Sullivan and his son really bonding and
Hmm.
learning because they did not have that close relationship. Now they have to know they have to. They have to be here for each other. I love the scenes where he's teaching them how to drive. He's like, well, take your time. We just robbed a bank, but take your
Just
time.
right.
And then he gets better and better over time. So it's just great movie. It's a great movie. I love Paul Newman. I'm sad that he did not win Best Supporting. He was nominated for this film. Paul Newman should have won that. Um, that's what I said. It's a great movie. Um, so yeah, I'm going to turn over to Pat for his number two.
My number two is well, we just kind of spoke about it a little bit. It's Pulp Fiction. I think Pulp Fiction. It's not. I know it's higher on my list, and like I said, this is based off we're on an island, right, guys? We're on an island, and we're wanting to watch a movie. I think as far as rewatchability, for me, this is a little bit more rewatchable compared to Jackie Brown. Not saying anything on Jackie Brown, but if you had to compare them, that's what I would say. Uh, no, I just the scenes alone in this movie are iconic. Obviously, like you said, you have Samuel L. Jackson and John Travolta in that first opening scene when they go up and kind of confront and get the case. I love the whole mystery behind the case, right? Where he opens it and he's all looking at it and it's like a gold light. And he's like, Vincent, Vincent. He's like, yeah. He's like, we good? He's like, yeah, we're good. And then he, closes it. But it's just I think also too one of my favorite actors, Bruce Willis, is in this movie. You know, this is an underrated role of his, I think too.
This is probably one of my favorite roles of Bruce Willis. Like
Really, you like him as Butch?
I like him as Butch. I like Die Hard, but I feel like that's the easiest one for him.
Yeah.
I like Die Hard with a Vengeance. There are good movies with him in it,
Mhm.
but Pulp Fiction, I agree, it's the most underrated with him. But I enjoy Butch. I think Butch
Yeah.
is just an interesting character, and I feel
Mhm.
like mixing with John Travolta and Samuel Jackson's roles in this film are just amazing. I think
Yeah.
it's really great to kind of see the offset with him.
Yeah. No, I him and Ving Rhames together, I think are great also. With that when they're in the bar and everything, and he's kind of telling them, you got to throw the fight, you gotta, your ass goes down in the fifth, right? They're trying to fix a fight and then he ends up screwing him in the long run. And then that whole chase sequence, like you were saying with him and John Travolta, he ends up killing John Travolta,
Bastard.
bastard. Um, but also John Travolta and Uma Thurman.
Yeah, I'll admit right now, this is probably one of my only favorite John Travolta films. I am not a big John Travolta guy either.
This revived his career too.
It
Is
did.
what's crazy.
Like, you have him in Grease, you have him in other movies. He was in even in Carrie. Do you even remember him in Carrie?
Grease lightning, go Grease lightning.
Yeah, that's what I said. He's in other iconic movies, but to me, this is by far my favorite with him.
Mhm.
I really couldn't sit here and say I liked any other John Travolta.
This, Pulp Fiction was iconic, right? This was Quentin Tarantino's second movie, right behind uh, Reservoir Dogs.
Mhm.
So, no, this movie is great. It's perfect in every way. I love how the editing, how everything's shot out of order and the way it's framed out of order. Tim Roth in the opening scene, with him and Honey Bunny. And then all alludes back to that same scene at the very end of the movie. So it's so funny. Harvey Keitel as Winston Wolfe. Um, just a lot of good things. A lot of good things about this movie. Go check it out. Pulp Fiction.
Okay.
So I'm gonna turn it to you, man. Get this.
So we're gonna go over honorable mentions before we go into this. I'm gonna rifle mine off.
Yeah.
I have Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. This was a movie that nicked off my list, and it was hard. This is a great animated movie. It's one of my favorite animated movies of all time. Yeah, this is a great movie. Elf almost made my list,
You
and
said Elf.
Elf
Yeah.
almost made my list. I enjoy Will Ferrell. It's one of my favorite Will Ferrell movie of all time. Um, this is just iconic. Sometimes I need that little Christmas cheer, and just some of those scenes where you see him just going in New York, it just makes you laugh.
Hmm.
Bill and Ted Excellent Adventure made my honorables. I enjoy this film. I don't care what people say. This is a fun film to watch. I love history. I love this, and it's fun to do. Minority Report.
Hmm.
Now, this is not a favorite of Tom Cruise's. It's probably one of my favorites of Tom Cruise's. It's just a great mystery, and every time you watch it, you find something new, and that's what I enjoy. Same thing with A Few Good Men. I think A Few Good Men is another great one. That's another honorable on my list. Angels in the Outfield. That was hard because that is my comfort movie, and it was hard. And another comfort movie I had on my list and it's honorable was Night at the Museum.
Hmm.
I have three more. I also had Forrest Gump. I also had Bottle Rocket.
There you go.
That's one that Pat got me into. And my last one I have on here, and it was hard, was T2 Judgment Day.
Yeah, there you
That
go.
was hard to eliminate. I almost took 12 Angry Men off my list for T2.
Oh, I don't. Oh,
That's hard. That's what I said. I
trying
almost
to,
because
trying
I
to shoot
want
myself in the foot that I didn't put T2.
I like fighting movies, and I always have to have a martial art movie. That was hard. I was like, that's staying at 10. So it was either number 8 or number 9, which was Return of the Jedi or 12 Angry Men. This came off for T2.
I got you.
But yeah, I'm gonna turn it over to Pat for his honorables.
I got Dogma. I love Kevin Smith. I got Dogma, Clerks,
Clerks is good.
Mallrats,
Mhm.
Groundhog Day.
You want to watch a movie that repeats itself over and over and
I
over?
love it. I will watch it every year on February 2nd. So, um, no, Clerk, like I said, yeah, I got Sideways is another one I really enjoy. It's a Paul Giamatti movie with man, what's the name? Thomas Hayden Church,
Yes.
I think. Uh, Interstellar.
I figured that was gonna make your list somewhere. On your
It was originally on my 10, and I took it off, and I think that's what replaced Bottle Rocket, and then I think also Back to the Future.
Yeah.
Was involved in that too. And then my last one is Django Unchained.
Yeah.
There's another Tarantino movie I really enjoy.
So time to go over our number ones. I'll go over mine first. It is probably my favorite Robin Williams film of all time. It really shows off his acting chops. You want to take a shot, Pat?
I think I already know what it is.
Say it. Say it is iconic line in that movie. Come on now.
Morning
It
Vietnam.
is Good Morning Vietnam. This is by far one of my favorite comedical performances of his, but also one of my favorite serious roles with him. This movie, he was shafted for best actor.
Shafted. He was
He was
shafted.
shafted. He was up there, and I think there was talks he was going to get it, and I forgot who they awarded it to, and people were like pissed. Like,
Pissed.
they were pissed. I enjoy Ron Williams in this film. Forrest
No.
Whitaker in this film too, and he's amazing in this film too. Probably one of my favorite Forrest Whitaker roles
Hmm.
in this film.
Yeah, Forrest Whitaker's great in this movie.
But you also it's just like Ron Williams is just Ron Williams in this film.
Mhm.
But there is one still my favorite scene to this day is well, I'll tell you my favorite joke from it, but one of my favorite scenes is when he has all the trucks around him because at this point he's lost faith in what he was doing.
Yeah.
That he pretty much was suspended at that point because he did something that he should have never done by reporting news that wasn't really confirmed in their eyes, which was hard for him because he was there. He saw it happen. And you see the truck surrounding him, and then Forrest Whitaker's like characters like, "Hey, you need to motivate these guys," and he's like, "Oh, I can't do it," and then he finally does, and it's just fun to watch him.
Mhm.
Of course, his first iconic broadcast is amazing. His little one-liners. You see the guy in the background just laughing his butt off. Sergeant Major Dickerson, love this guy because I love him in Few Good Men. He's one of my favorite actors in A Few Good Men. He is
Mhm.
Jack Nicholson's right hand man, pretty much.
He gets
Uh,
his man back.
yeah, go right hand man back. Go ahead.
I
Fan-
love the one of the first lines in the movie from Ron Williams. I think I've told you before, but he gets off the plane and Forrest Whitaker's character goes, "Yeah, I'm sorry, it's hot out here." He's like, "Hi, it's set to London broil." Just little witty remarks like it's great.
you get
No,
this
you got me into this movie. I watched parts of it when I was a kid, but I never really watched it all the way through until recently.
like I feel
Um,
like this movie and Genie is where you see pure Ron Williams. Like this is to me like you get to hear all the voices like you hear Genie do. You have
and Mrs. Doubtfire, I think, would be in that conversation too.
granted, but like when you like I love Mrs. Doubtfire. That was another one that was hard to not put on this list.
Yeah.
But when you really look at like pure his personalities, his everything, or like the way he voices or mimics voices,
Yeah.
you only really see that with like you see it with Mrs. Doubtfire, but
Hmm.
not compared to Good Morning and um
Yeah. Don't forget about his greatest role ever, and that's Popeye.
I like him as Popeye. He's underrated. I'm putting it out there right now. He's a very underrated.
I was strictly saying that as a joke, but
Yeah,
okay,
no, it's a very
got
underrated
it.
film. I still enjoy that movie. That city where they shot it still exists,
Oh,
and
really?
yeah, it's actually kind of cool. You got to go look up pictures of it. It actually looks amazing still. It actually still looks like the set they left off of. It's amazing. Um, Very underrated film. My other favorite one of his was Birdcage. I almost put that on my list too because I like him in Bird.
Cage, yeah, with him and Nathan Lane
I
and
love him in that.
Gene. I love Gene Hackman, man.
I love him. I love that whole cast. I think that cast was really good. I like how he's the
Sorry.
owner of the bar, everything. It's just another pure one. But he's a great actor. Patch Adams almost made my list of his.
Patch.
A lot of Ron Williams films almost made my list, and it was hard because I love Ron Williams. Rest in peace. But it just I had to pick one that I enjoyed, and that was Good Morning Vietnam. It's
Yeah.
just a great film of his seriousness. And you see the change too. You've seen it too now, where you see him so serious or so funny to turning so serious.
Mhm.
And it's amazing. It's like an on and off switch for him, and it's perfect for him. So, yeah, Good Morning Vietnam, one of my favorite movies of all time, is my number one. So we'll go to Pat for his number one.
My number one has one of the most iconic opening lines to a movie of all time. Do you want to guess what that is?
Give me another hint.
What do you mean, like another hint?
Give me an actor at least.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna go with Robert De Niro.
It's Goodfellas.
It is Goodfellas. For as
Yeah.
long as I can always remember, or for as long as I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster.
You
And
know,
that sums the movie up perfectly.
you want me to tell you though, that's not the iconic line I was thinking. I was like,
Really?
I'm thinking like,
Was it go get your? Was it?
what's funny?
Oh, I thought you were gonna say go get your fucking shine box.
No, I love the Joe Pesci scene.
Sorry.
You think what's funny? What's funny? Like that is Joe Pesci's best role.
Yes.
He won an Oscar for it for a reason.
Did he? Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
he won Best Supporting for that. Because then after he went to Home Alone, and then it's like his career never was the same. So,
Yeah, that's right. He did Home Alone like all in that same time.
well, but I think a year or two after, yeah.
Those are two blockbuster movies for him.
But I just don't feel like he was the same after. Like he did The Irishman too, and I think he was nominated for Best Supporting Actor too.
My cousin Vinny.
My Cousin Benny was a great one. I love that's probably my favorite film of his. But going back to Goodfellas, I enjoy this film.
Yeah, this
Up,
movie is one of Ray Liotta's best movies too. I think this is his best movie.
I think he win Best Actor? I can't remember if he won Best Actor.
He's considered the main character, right?
Yeah, he is the main character. Like that's Henry Hill. That is,
Yeah,
and,
this movie's about Henry Hill. Yeah,
and it's out and to be out there, fans might not know this. That is based on a true story.
it is.
Henry Hill is a real person.
Yep.
And there's interviews with him and everything. That's where he went into hiding everything. Like it's great to kind of see.
Like Paul Sorvino as Paulie.
I
He's
love
great in
that's
this movie, man.
one of my favorite lines
Yeah.
in the whole movie. Oh, plane crashed in or a car crashed into your house. Fuck you, pay me. You
Fuck
know,
you. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I
Yeah.
love that movie. That is like by far Paul Sorvino's best
Oh,
for
dude.
me is Goodfellas. Like
Lorraine Bracco in this is great too. I mean, considering it's funny because there's like three or four people that went on to go be in the Sopranos that are in this movie. You
Steve
know,
Buscemi should have been in this film. I'll put it out there. I think Steve
Steve
Buscemi.
Buscemi would have been good in this movie.
He would have. Like like you even get Samuel Jackson in this film, and people forget about that. He is in this film as a very small role.
I
But
think Owen Wilson could be a drug dealer in this movie. Like, wow, you want some cocaine, guys?
but in your eyes, at this movie, do you look at Ray Liotta being the best actor in this film, or Joe Pesci?
Uh,
I wouldn't even put Robert De Niro in this because I feel like
no, 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 no. I don't really like Robert De Niro too much in this movie. Like, he's good. He's got some. His mannerisms are good. Like his character's mannerisms are good.
right.
I like all that, but
Like he's an important character, but not the best role for him.
No, no, no,
Like
no.
to be totally honest, that's where I could see Steve Buscemi. I could see him being that smooth talking slime ball.
Jimmy Conway.
No, yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, playing him is okay.
Joe Pesci. That's right. If it wasn't those guys.
But getting back to it, I think that Ray Liotta and Joe Pesci, I think their roles are about equal for me because if you think about it, like after Joe Pesci's character dies, Ray Liotta kind of carries the movie because I have no interest after honestly, like after Tommy dies, who was Paul or Joe Pesci's character, I lose all interest in Robert De Niro.
Yeah.
I just do. I don't know why. I just do. And I think also Lorraine Bracco and Ray Liotta. Sorry, Ray Liotta and Lorraine Bracco. They're fantastic together in this movie.
Yep.
Talk about chemistry, man. Like that, their relationship alone, like toxic to all end. But holy shit, dude, is it wild? The guy that plays Maury, I'm not sure. I don't have it in front of me, but I love the character Maury in the movie. Maury's wigs don't come off, even in hurricane-tested winds. You know, just there's so many good. The soundtrack to this movie is fantastic, dude.
I give Martin Scorsese a lot of credit for that because his soundtracks and movies are really good.
Dude, they're great.
I think
Like the whole
one he did that I didn't like was Raging Bull. I didn't like the soundtrack they did with him for that. But
okay.
like Goodfellas, Departed, there's a lot of iconic movies with me that I could sit there and say, okay, his score was good or his soundtracks were good on that.
When Robert De Niro's at this is probably the coolest part when Robert De Niro's at the bar. Like at best part for Robert De Niro, he's at the bar, he's smoking a cigarette, and then all of a sudden you hear the sunshine dun 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 dun. Like it's just like he means business after that. He's gonna start whacking people. But another quick little thing, and then we'll finish this up. But the food aspect in this movie, I love it, man. I love food. That's why I like Ratatouille. Um,
I I love the whole scene where they're sitting. I think it was after the murder they did in the bar, and they're
oh,
sitting at his
with his
mom's
mom,
table.
yeah, and that's Martin Scorsese's mom too.
That's why I love that scene where they're just like acting like nothing happened, and they're like, "Yeah, we're eating, we're having fun."
And then I like they look at the painting and they're like, "Hey, it looks like someone we know." He's like, "No, that's the guy."
I'm glad it made your list. It did not make
Yep,
mine, but
it did not make mine, but I wanted to talk about it
yeah,
nonetheless.
it was,
Um,
I'd put
but
it up.
yeah, no, that's my number one, and I think that's a great wrap up for this episode, man.
Yeah, so check us out, fans. Just for Flix on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. Also check us out on um, Spotify for podcasts or Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts for future podcasts coming out. We want to thank fans for listening in to our very first episode of this podcast.
Mhm.
And I'm going to turn it back over to Patty B to finish this out.
Thank you guys for everything. Thank you, B Dog, for being with me today, man. And remember, we do it just for Flix.